Well, that game was garbage. That Monday night game was terrible, but honestly, I mean, what can you do against Washington, right? I mean, you can't really fault them. When you don't have Jaden Daniels, nothing's going to go in your favor. So that game was just, there's really not much to talk about here. But anyways, we're not even here tonight to recap the game. Everybody knows why we're here. This is called Transparency Hour. If you've never seen my channel before, this is what I do every single Monday night after the game. Is I go through what I got right and what I got wrong in the previous week of fantasy football. And the biggest reason I do it is because you don't see this from anybody else. Nobody can do it like me because nobody can take the backlash. I get a lot of things wrong just like everybody else does, but I get things right too. So we want to be transparent and address those things in what I like to call my night of repentance or transparency hour. So we're going to get into what I got right and wrong. Let me just make a couple of quick announcements over here on the site. We do have, for those of you who play fantasy basketball and for fantasy hockey, we've got the waiver wire tool now active for both fantasy hockey and for fantasy basketball. So what's cool about hockey, we also have a ranking system over here. Somebody updates those. We've got hockey polling as well, so it's like fantasy football polling. And we also just have a new guy who's starting to post on fantasy hockey on YouTube now. So everything is good right now. Things are going well on the channel. If you like fantasy hockey, you can use our site and our waiver tool for that. And same thing with fantasy basketball. But make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel to show your support, and let's get into what I got right and wrong by starting out with this right here. I think that there's a lot of times where I look at certain individual situations with certain teams. And I think I always like to say this on the channel. Like, I feel like I've got a really good pulse on every individual team and players more than most creators do because I watch the games. And I actually watch and see what each team does on a weekly basis. I watch multiple games. I watch every game throughout the week. I like to watch one game at a time. I'm not a red zone guy, not a simulcast guy. I like to focus on one game at a time. So every day of the week, we'll have a football game running. And, so I'm able to catch a lot of things from teams. And one of the things that I had been discussing on throughout the entirety of last week was how I thought that the Dolphins were going to have a bounce back game. Because if you've looked at the Dolphins over the years, what you've noticed from that team, under Mike McDaniel particularly, is that they're a team that is not weathered. And what I mean by that is they go out into any other weather condition. If it's not hot and humid like it is in Miami at home, or if it's, not in a dome, they're going to struggle in the rain. They're going to struggle in the snow, in the hail, in the cold weather in general. So against the Browns, they came out and did terribly. Well, then this week they go to Atlanta and play the Falcons. And I said to people, I think they're going to have a massive bounce back game. I really do. I think they're going to come back. And Jalen Waddle in particular is someone I really like this week. And so a lot of people naturally pulled back when I said Jalen Waddle was like a top 12, top 15 play. And they were like, well, I mean, he's coming off this terrible week. Tua looks awful. Like, how are we going to play this guy? And I said, just trust me on this one. I've seen this team and I've watched them because I've always had a very particular interest in Miami because for a while I really liked Mike McDaniel. And I think he is a really good offensive mind. I think it's really popular and it's kind of fun. If you just watch the guy's press conferences, this is it's hilarious to watch Mike McDaniel's press conferences. The guy literally can't speak. It's kind of funny. He looks like my wife thinks he's drunk or on drugs when he's talking at a press conference because he's just says two words in 20 seconds, right? So I liked him though. I think he's a good offensive mind. And so I always liked their fantasy options. So I've always kept a closer eye on them throughout the year. And everything I've picked up is this is a good early season team. And when they go and travel to different places throughout the rest of the season, they're a bad weather team. So it wasn't surprising for me to watch them. It was a little surprising the Falcons were that bad, but it wasn't surprising for me to see Waddle have a good day. It really wasn't. So I'm glad that Jalen Waddle had a good day and validated what I thought about it the whole time, which is that this guy's definitely going to bounce back in this game. It's a dome game. They get out of that nasty weather. Here's something that was I cannot hold on to this for another second. Like, there's no way I can start out what I got wrong any other way. And this may not have affected you as much as it affected me, but I know I affected people with this one. It's funny because I was talking about it in the live stream before the Sunday games. And what I was saying is that, like, over the years, if I'm wildly wrong on a defensive ranking and I overrank a defense, I'll get them in, like, every league I play in, and I suffer in every league I play in because I played that one defense that was so overvalued by me throughout the duration of the previous week. And this particular defense, I mean, the story of the year with them is injuries. And we do get to a point of, like, diminishing returns, right? Like, I'm a new homeowner. I just, I've been living with my wife for 2 years now. And the first year that we had our house, for example, was great. Like, nothing was wrong with the house. Nothing was breaking. Everything was fine. It was just like, oh, this is great, owning a house. And then this over the last, like, I would say 8 months or so, well, we've had a leak that we had to repair. We've had, yard stuff that we had to take care of. We've had, AC issues. It's just like stuff pops up and you get to a point where it's like, you feel like the whole thing is just coming on top of you, like when it rains it pours type of situation. And there's no question at this point that we've gotten to that point about the 49ers defense. And really their team as a whole is coming to a nasty situation, but their defense in particular, like, they are at a point of diminishing returns. Because if you look at the 49ers defense, and, like, I watched the game live against the Texans on Sunday, they're still dealing with injuries. I mean, every game, at least one guy leaves. And I think against the Texans, if I'm remembering correctly, it was actually 3 guys that left that game early. They were already throwing guys like you and me out there. And the way I looked at it heading into the week was that I think that the Texans, as bad as they are offensively, and they're losing their top weapon, right? Not just top receiver. They're losing their top weapon, Nico Collins, for this week. So I kind of looked at it as like, this is even Steven. Like, it gets canceled out because they just, like, it's not like they're any good anyways. So I looked at the 49ers as this great defensive play this week. Dude, the reason I said I couldn't hold on to this any longer is because, first of all, the thing that bothers me most is knowing how it affected other people. Like, when I said to play the 49ers defense, I know a lot of people played them this week, and I'm sorry because of that. That was a disgraceful play, and people pointed it out to me. People were like, dude, I think it's the week, man, with the 49ers. Like, it's going to come crashing down. And I said, I don't think so. I think it'll be a different week. I was wrong, and I can't remember the last time in all the years I've been playing fantasy football, which has been more than, I think this is my 13th season playing fantasy football. In all the years of playing fantasy, I don't remember a weekend where every one of my teams lost. All of them. Obviously, I've got best ball teams. You don't lose in best ball, but, like, every one of my redraft teams and dynasty teams, I had the 49ers defense, common thread, and they got negative points of fantasy, contributing to a loss. So bad. That one really bothers me. It pisses me off. Multiple reasons. I mean, reason number one is, I say this a lot. I take defense really seriously on my channel because, as many of you know, I am the first fantasy YouTuber to do defense rankings weekly. And everybody else likes to copy it now, right? Like, I mean, that's just a fact. Like, I'm not trying to act like I'm holier than thou. It's just a fact. But the number 2 reason it bothers me is because I looked at this game and like, in hindsight, it makes no sense for me to rank this defense anywhere close to the top 5, which is where they were at. So, like, it just, so many levels, this one makes me so mad. Yeah, I couldn't hold on to that one. Like, there was no way I could start tonight with what I got wrong any differently than the 49ers defense. But I want to stay on defense here. And I'm going to go through a defense that I had pegged this whole offseason. And I got a lot of flack for this. Man, like, listen, people need to understand this about me. And I think a lot of you who have been with me over the years, you understand, like, how I am as a Steelers fan, right? Like, I say this sometimes on the channel. I get into talking about the Steelers. And one thing I always try to make clear is, like, there's two types of Steelers fans in the world. There's the first type, and I've got family that still lives in Pittsburgh. Like, and if you talk to them, they're eternal optimists. Tomlin's a great coach. Why would they fire him? Why would they move on from him? Everything looks great. Nothing is wrong with this team. Like, that's the one train of thought. They could do nothing wrong. They're brainwashed by the local media over there. And then there's the other section that's, like, cynical. And I'm the cynic. I'm a cynical Steelers fan. And I always have been. Like, it runs in the blood. I mean, my dad's the same way. My grandfather was the same way. We're cynical Steelers fans because mostly for me, I grew up watching great Steelers defenses. And I grew up watching Troy Polamalu, James Harrison, Ike Taylor, Ryan Clark, Lamar Woodley, Aaron Smith. I mean, countless guys. Like, I just remember great defensive units led by Dick LeBeau. And then Mike Tomlin got there, and he got to take a lot of the credit from Bill Cowher's team. And I know I'm getting really deep into, like, Steelers knowledge, like, from the 2000s. So a lot of people may tune this out. But if you've been watching the NFL for years, you would probably know that I'm right. Like, Bill Cowher built the defense that Tomlin stepped into. And that's always been my problem with Tomlin, is that Tomlin came in and basically made the defense worse over the years. Like, he was not able to recover from the Troy days and the Debo days. And, like, I get it. Troy Polamalu, James Harrison, those are two, like, Hall of Fame players. So, like, it's hard to, like, just replace those guys. But I've been very critical of Tomlin over the years. And before the season started, when I ranked my defense rankings, I didn't have the Steelers in, like, any of them. I did defense rankings 3 times before the season started, I think, or 4. And I don't think in any of them they were in the top 12. And a lot of people were like, dude, you're out of your mind. Like, what are you smoking? And they listed off all the players, right? Like Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay. Like, they've got all these big names. And it's like, well, here's the one thing you're not mentioning. All those guys are over 30. Like, that doesn't bode well for a good season in fantasy football. And as we sit here today, the Steelers defense is the defense number 21 in fantasy. They've rarely been a good play this year. And I'll say this, the Steelers defense, Mike Tomlin does not get the absolute hellstorm that he deserves. And I try to come on here when I talk about the Steelers and give it to him because nobody else will. Nobody. It's freaking mind-blowing. And honestly, I know the reason. People are afraid to call him out. But I will. Because Tomlin said before the year that this would be a historic defense. Historic. That's a quote. You can look it up. If he meant historically bad, that's adding up. Because they're freaking awful. Freaking awful. And they're old. They're going to get banged up throughout the year. It's not going to get better. It's so disgraceful what's happened. And I think Tomlin is well worn out his welcome with me, that's for sure. As a Steelers fan, I get hyped into this. But from a fantasy football perspective, I mean, this guy, there's going to be weeks still. I'm not debating this. There will be weeks where the Steelers defense has big plays because that's what they do. They're not a good team as far as stopping you from scoring a bunch of points and getting a bunch of yards, but they will get turnovers off you, and they will get sacks. That's what they do. But to come up with 0 sacks against Jordan Love on Sunday night was an embarrassment. when you have the most expensive defense in the league. You can look that up too. So I got that one really right. And I think a lot of people, like when it comes, I'm a big proponent on this channel of trusting your gut. I really am. Like, I want people to trust their gut. But the one thing I will say is, man, when it comes to the Steelers, like, I watch this team. I analyze this team like I don't analyze any other team because I'm a Steelers fan. Now, I'm a fantasy football analyst first, always and every time. But when it comes to watching a team and, like, knowing the inner workings of how they work, I study that team closer than anybody else. And that defense is underperforming. They're expensive. They're overinflated, and Tomlin's not a good coach. I want to say that Tomlin is a fine coach. He's an above average coach, but he's worn out his welcome in Pittsburgh. He's worn out his welcome with me. And if you want to tell me that Tomlin's side of the ball is the better part of this team, you are wrong, and you are not watching this team. So here's something else I got wrong, and it's always fun to move on from Steelers because I could go on and on about the Steelers, but that's not what this is about. So I've said it, I've discussed it a lot over the past several days. Jordan Mason was a terrible call. And Jordan Mason, I said that I actually kind of liked him this week because the Chargers defense has not been good against the run. And I didn't think that the Vikings were going to get blasted like that. Like, I thought the Vikings would lose, but I thought it would be more of like a 24-17 type of game. Like, I thought it was going to be relatively close to the point where the Vikings could run the ball more. And, I mean, Jordan Mason was that bad. Like, Jordan Mason was bad enough to the point where, he averaged less than a yard per carry on 4 carries. And now I will say this. I did say this in the buy low video today. I think that the discussions surrounding Jordan Mason and about how he's a potential drop candidate, I think they're overblown. I do not think that you should be dropping Jordan Mason. Like, it's just a fact. Like, Jordan Mason with Aaron Jones is still the running back one. I mean, Aaron Jones this past week had 9 opportunities compared to Mason's 5. But I said this as well. You can't look at a running back like Jordan Mason, one who doesn't catch passes, like historically, and expect him to do any much different when they're getting clobbered from the moment of the first drive the Chargers scored on. So they were in a negative game script that whole time. So Jordan Mason was never going to do good. Now, I think really what it comes down to is, again, I thought that this was going to be more of a 24-17 type of game and that the Vikings would be much more involved than they were. And I was very wrong about that. Now, again, I will say I do not think you should be trading. I do not think you should be dropping him. I don't. I think that you should hold on to him. I think he will have better games, and I think that there will be games where he can have like a 20-point game. I really do believe that. But there's no arguing at this point. Like, Jordan Mason is not a lock start. He's not. Aaron Jones will continue to take receptions from Jordan Mason. But if you think that Jordan Mason is just going to the bench permanently, you've got another thing coming. Like, that's not going to happen. But nonetheless, Jordan Mason was a terrible call. I think one thing I always enjoy is coming on here and looking back at the buy low candidates. I think that looking back at like buy low candidates later into the season, like after several weeks, letting him marinate is fun. And one guy in particular, I had been saying for a number of reasons, this guy's a buy low. Like a number of reasons, I think that Derrick Henry is one of the ideal buy lows at this time. And a lot of people really push back on that. And listen, I understand. Like most of the past month, Derrick Henry has been not unusable, but just not very good, right? Like his ceiling was like 12 to 14 points. And so people were just getting frustrated with him. Like he was never in Jordan Mason territory where it's like, are we dropping Derrick Henry? Obviously, no one is going to drop Derrick Henry. But a lot of people were like, why would I want to buy this guy? Like, he just is. When you have a player like Henry, right? Henry is a guy that has so much name value in fantasy football. And for trades, like, he's a guy that easily could net you a really good return even when he's not playing well. It's kind of the Justin Jefferson effect that I've been discussing for weeks and why I believe you should sell Justin Jefferson. But I'd rather buy Henry than Justin Jefferson because I saw with Henry, and I pointed this out on the buy low videos when I was discussing him. Not buy lows, but trade targets. Trade target videos when I was discussing Derrick Henry. The reason why you want to buy this guy is because, first of all, Lamar Jackson gets back. And Lamar Jackson, when he's in the lineup, he adds another rushing threat to Derrick Henry, to this Baltimore offense. And so what happens is Derrick Henry's efficiency, it goes up. And one of the things you could actually notice right here, just by looking at fsroundup.com, where we have all these numbers after the week of fantasy football, is Derrick Henry, like, without Lamar again, wasn't that efficient, but he got in the end zone twice. Now, that leads into the second reason I called him a great trade target, which is that the Ravens' schedule was brutal, with or without Lamar, brutal in the first month of the season. It significantly lightens up for them after the bye week. And they came in and they beat the crap out of the Bears. Like, they abused the Bears. And it's only going to get better. They're playing the Dolphins on Thursday night. If you think the Dolphins have a chance in that game with Lamar back, you're out of your mind. Like, the Dolphins are going to get clobbered by the Ravens. And that leads me to the second reason why, is because in positive game scripts, Derrick Henry is at his best. And you saw it this week when they were pacing the Bears. They had a lead on the Bears basically the whole game. And he gets 2 touchdowns. That's where Derrick Henry's at his best. So again, I think it's fun to kind of look back on like buy low or, trade target videos and see how they age. This is one of those that's going to age really well. Really, really well. Derrick Henry is on a team that's, by the way, favored to win the division at 2-5 over the 4-4 Steelers, the 4-3 Steelers. They're favored to win this division. What does that tell you? It tells you that the Ravens are about to rip off a lot of wins because they have 5 losses already. How can you win the division with more than 7 losses? So they're going to be in a lot of positive game scripts, meaning Derrick Henry is going to bring a lot of teams fantasy greatness moving forward. I hope you bought Henry because that buy low window, it's gone. It's gone. Derrick Henry is not a buyable player unless you're going to pay up big now. And then we'll end on this. Obviously, most of us, and I can't imagine unless you live under a rock, have not seen the Cam Scadaboo injury. Brutal, man. I mean, there's been actually, 3 of those this year that I can remember. Tyreek Hill's wasn't an ankle, but, I think it was actually. Tyreek Hill's injury, Fred Warner's injury, and now Cam Scadaboo's injury where your foot or your leg is facing a completely different direction than it should. And if you watch that video, it's gut-wrenching, man. I mean, Cam Scadaboo has been one of the funnest players to watch in 2025. The energy he brought to the team was infectious, and it was a big reason why I was saying over the weeks, I like Giants players. In fantasy football, I like them, and also to make upset victories. It was a big part because Scadaboo brought so much energy. And, you saw the energy come down. And ironically, the moment Scadaboo left, that team fell apart. The Giants fell apart against the Eagles. So it was a huge, disheartening thing to see Cam Scadaboo go out like that this year. And before I get into it, this is me hoping that he comes back the same player. Because that injury is brutal, man. I mean, he had to have emergency surgery, basically. That's tough. That's tough. And I want to pay homage to him, really, because a lot of you who are just with me during the fantasy season, you're not with me in the off season when I'm making my real calls, my season long calls. about players. And one of the players that I was not big on at all this offseason was Cam Skattebo. Like, it's not that I didn't like him. I liked him a lot coming out of college. Like, I was really big on Cam Skattebo coming out of Arizona State. I thought that he was going to be a really good player. But the thing that I didn't like about him was many of you who watch me in the offseason know that I'm big on my running back, league-winning running back model. And it helped me find Chuba Hubbard last year. And that's where a lot of people know me as. Like, how did you know about Chuba Hubbard? Well, I've got a formula for it, and I showed people what it was this year. And one of the biggest names that stood out in my model this year was Tyrone Tracy Jr. And so heading into the year, I was like, this is not Cam Skattebo's backfield. Like, if you looked at reports at the time, Cam Skattebo was like buried behind Devin Singletary for a while. I was like, Tyrone Tracy Jr. is like, Cam Skattebo is an irrelevant factor for Tyrone Tracy Jr. And not only was I wrong about that entirely, but Cam Skattebo, again, galvanized this team. Like, what his impact was to the team was far beyond just like getting a touchdown or, you know, getting 100 yards in a game. Cam Skattebo, because of his playing style, his personality, was so infectious to that team. Like, every time, this is like a universal thing. And I think that this is the appreciation that you could show for a player like this. Like, one of the things I always romanticize on this channel is the old days. Like, when I grew up, and which wasn't that long ago. I mean, I'm only 28 years old, but like, when I grew up, I watched 2000s football. Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, James Harrison, Troy Polamalu, Brian Dawkins, you know, tons of guys that would take your head off, like, on a weekly basis. And that's really disappeared from the game because of, like, player safety rules, the CTE thing. Like, they're not going to go back to that, unfortunately. Not unfortunately for the players, but I really enjoyed that football. And Cam Skattebo was, like, kind of a throwback. Like, he wanted to like, run through you every time he had the ball. That infects the team with so much enthusiasm, aggression, especially when it comes from a rookie. And so this is me paying homage to Cam Skattebo because I was so wrong on him, and I don't get called out for it enough, and that's why I'm here tonight, because this is about transparency. I did not think Cam Skattebo would be a factor at all. I thought from the beginning this would be Tracy's backfield, and Cam Skattebo was pretty awesome this year while we had him. Very sad that he had to exit so early this year. Really disheartening to see the injury in particular, but Cam Skattebo, Godspeed. I salute you for watching you. I really enjoyed watching it this year, so get well, Cam. Well, that was what I got right and wrong. Like the video, subscribe to the channel to show your support. Just to reiterate, hockey, fantasy hockey, and fantasy basketball are available on fsroundup.com. You can do waiver claims and use our automatic waiver wire tool on the site for fantasy hockey and fantasy basketball. We have a hockey YouTube channel now. So if you're into fantasy hockey, go give that channel a watch on the site. And sign up for FS Roundup to support me. That's a big way to support me. And you get league-winning features for $6 a month. And the last thing is that start-sit polls will be active starting in like an hour and a half. So make sure to post your start-sit polls, get live feedback and results from everybody else, and go vote on their polls too. Love you guys. I'll see you guys in tomorrow's videos. Peace out.